Hi, welcome back. We're continuing to go through Line 2 gear. Today I want to talk about, well, pretty much what 95% of airsofters should probably be using, which is a battle belt. Now, I know plate carriers are popular just for the look. Vests are popular because the really cheap Chinese vests are really cheap. But honestly, for most people, if you're not wearing armor, the plate carriers don't make any sense. It's a bunch of extra bulk you don't need. Reloading from your belt line is actually faster than trying to fumble with things on your chest, which makes this superior to most vests, especially the generic cross-draw vests that you see a lot of people use. And actually, when it comes to which belt to use, the ATS belt really is, like, I've tried to look up several others prepping for this video, and I've gone through a lot of different belts myself. This is really the best thing on the market, and it's even an amazing value. So just to kind of get into the features you want to look for in a belt. In general, you want a belt that's going to have 3 rows of Molle. It doesn't really matter about this middle row so much, but you need a top and a bottom with a gap. And the reason for that is if you only have 2 rows, you can't weave your pouches back and forth, because basically the pouch attaches through the belt's Molle at the top and at the bottom, and then in between, a connector actually goes through the pouch. So you get a much more stable connector if you have 3 rows of Molle. I would highly recommend getting a belt that's got a separate outer and inner belt. Like if you look at this here, you've got an inner belt that runs through a sleeve, and the sleeve forms the outer belt. And the reason you want that allows you to attach a pistol to your inner belt. You can see this is connected to the inner belt just fine, and then hangs down. So you actually get a rather nice draw by having your belt set up that way. Though I'd recommend you can put magazine pouches on your off side. Strong side, you can put a canteen. Normally I'd put a first aid kit, something like that, and a pistol right where you can easily draw it. If you want more information about the pistol setup, I've got a video on Safariland holsters, but this is basically their ALS holster, QLS fork, and the UBL belt loop. And then around the back, I've got a dump pouch which quickly deploys and you can dump your empty mags in. Actually wasn't a mag there. And on the side, for somebody my size, and I've got a 37-inch waist roughly, I've got plenty of room to put 2 or potentially 3 mags here. If you want more than that, it gets a little funky. But for most airsofters, even most big games, with the double pouches, if you go all the way across, that's 6 mags. That's the limit at most events anyways. You could potentially add a radio there depending on what you actually need. But that's the intention for this pouch. Now, some things to consider when you're shopping for a battle belt. Get something that's compatible with suspenders. Now, I know it seems silly to do the suspenders. Let me tell you a story. This was probably 6 years ago at Texas Paintball. We had a game, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but the goal was we needed to grab a 50 cal ammo can and bring it back to a specific house. So one of my teammates had got it. He was running back with the ammo can, got shot out in the middle of, like, with no cover around him. Got shot, put down the ammo can where he was. So we needed to go get the ammo can and bring it back. And this can was just in the middle of nowhere, no cover. So I run out from cover. As I'm running, I've got a rifle slung to my chest, 2-point sling. I bend over as I run, grab the ammo can, keep running as fast as I can, make it to cover, and I remember getting into the house we needed to get this little ammo can to, or bomb, or whatever it was supposed to be. It's just a prop. And there's these 2 kids there, or teenagers, and they're just looking at me with awe, and I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm awesome. These guys, are admiring me. Well, what it turns out happened is, at the time I was using a Condor Gen 2 battle belt with a Bianchi inner belt with this exact belt buckle. And as I was running, since I let one hand go of the rifle that was slung in front of my chest, that actually pushed the release button there. And then as I bent down, my stomach pushed on the top and my guts basically pushed on the bottom, and the weight of all of the stuff on the belt caused it to do this, and all of my gear, my belt with everything on it, fell on the ground right where that ammo can was, in the middle of no cover enemy players shooting at us. It was kind of a bad situation to have pretty much everything I was using, including my spare ammo, dropped right in the middle there. Got the ammo can, the prop that I was running back with, but lost all of my stuff. And that was with one of these fancy belt buckles. So, just get some suspenders. It solves that problem. This entire setup, as of the time of recording, or at least the ATS inner belt, outer belt, and suspenders, costs $97. If you go cheap with the Condor stuff, their inner belt, outer belt, and suspenders combination costs $78. So you're looking at a $20 difference. You go from getting made in China Condor setup versus getting a USA made quality materials, really high quality stitching battle belt. So really the ATS belt, I think, is the way to go. Now, to talk about some of the other alternative options you can do for battle belts other than this, the U.S. Marine Corps has a war belt that they produce or used. I don't know how extensively it's been used, but you can find them surplus occasionally. The problem with that is it doesn't have a cutout on the bottom of the outer belt to allow you to mount a pistol to it. You can go with a Bianchi police belt. Now, as I said, the buckles aren't that great. And I, at one point, did that, and I spray painted the entire thing camo colored. I sewed together my own suspenders for it. I actually sewed Velcro on the inside and outside of a bunch of Molle pouches so they'd connect nicely. Got the belt keepers. If you look at police belts, you're actually supposed to have a loop that goes around the two sides of the belt, hold them together, because they've got a Velcro belt that goes in your pants plus the outer belt. Frankly, with the amount of work that was, I wouldn't do it again. It didn't work particularly well. I'll try to drop in a picture in the video if I can still find one of what that setup looked like. I wouldn't do it again. I wasn't a fan. It didn't give me the flexibility that I have with the Molle system like this. You can also look at the old U.S. military surplus Alice pistol belts with the, I think they call them the LC2 suspenders. The problems with those is you're stuck using Alice pouches, and any of that surplus stuff that you find, Alice, that system was last produced in 1991. So if you're buying some of that on the used market, you're basically either getting a Chinese knockoff of unknown quality, or you're getting actual U.S. military surplus that's been sitting in a warehouse for 31 years, growing moldy, decaying, whatever else. So I just skip all that and go straight to the ATS belt. The only things about this that I would modify, and I have a sewing machine, I love sewing, things get modified a lot. Obviously, the extra end of your suspender, just wrap it in electrical tape and you're done. So on either, you can sew a name tape directly onto the suspenders, or you could add some Velcro here. If I was going to do it again, I'd put Velcro on so I could take it off for recording YouTube videos, but whatever, it works. And add a loop like this. This is an elastic loop, and that gives you some flexibility if you're going to run a radio and have cable coming from your radio pouch up the back of your suspenders, so you can run like a shoulder mic or into headphones without having to worry too much of the way that the cables are running. They won't be running flat, like loose and getting in your way. But once again, I think for just playing at your local field, regular games, this is the way to go. And even this one has the benefit of being able to scale up and down, because this you could take for really short games. You have a canteen. If you're playing a longer game or potentially a mil-sim event, you can take this canteen out, use this as a first aid kit pouch for the airsoft respawn rules, and then throw a camelback or something on your back, which I've done many times.